Hello badminton fans, here we go again. We've got another racket here. This is racket number 600 and is it 84? Yep, 684, and it is a Yonex Voltric 0.7DG. The racket is priced very reasonably. It's around the £50 mark, 45–50 pounds. It's quite hard to get hold of in Europe. You're looking at primarily buying it from Badminton Bay. There's a link below directly to their website, or if you go to their website and when you check out type in BRR5, you will get a discount on what you're buying. They're a great bunch of people. They all play badminton and they offer amazing levels of service. So that's the best way of getting hold of this racket. We will be selling this particular one at www.badminton-racket-review.com, which is our racket sales site. There's a link to that below too. Okay, we're going to go on to talking about the manufacturer's specs now and comparing them to our own E-Zone specs. If you're not familiar what the E-Zone is, we will come on to that later on in this video. Okay, the weight of this racket is the 3U class weight racket, so traditionally 85 to 89 grams. The E-Zone test, weight test for this racket, let me bring that up, my E-Zone page is open here. The E-Zone weight test, 92.3 grams, that's with the grip supplied by Yonex and the Yonex BG65 string. We all know that the DG range is a head heavy balance. The E-Zone balance point measurement for this racket is 307. Now let me just, while we're on that subject, interestingly that the 0.7DG is 307 and the 0.5DG was 318. The 11DG slim was 329. And let me tell you something that you might find more interesting here. The 0.5DG had a massively stiff shaft, okay, and the 0.7DG has a slightly lesser stiff shaft. It's still stiff, it's still definitely classed as stiff, but it's slightly less stiff. Now why I'm telling you that information is, the other information, so, and the 0.5DG weighed in exactly the same, 92.5, this is 92.3, very little difference. But generally speaking, you get a lot more power out of this racket on a regular basis than you do compared to the 0.5. It's not as head heavy and it's not as stiff. I think there's something in that. We've been arguing this point for quite a number of years. I know the traditional thinking about stiffness and head heaviness, but there is a balance between that and airspeed. Airspeed's never really been a consideration for a lot of people. Anyway, back to the racket specs. Maximum string tension, as with a lot of the DGs, is 35 pounds, so that's big string tension given the price point. What other information do we have for you here? It's G5, supplied with a G5 grip. The racket is made in Taiwan, and you can see the quality of this racket is really. I prefer the design of this to the 0.5DG. It's only slightly more expensive. It's a matte finish, finished really well. You could easily charge more for this racket with the way it's designed and finished. Taiwanese manufacturing, as good as anyone else is manufacturing on the planet, really nice. We don't have any details of what this racket is made of. High modulus graphite would be what I suspect they will use for this, and it does use the tri-voltage system and has an isometric racket head. I just talked about the design a second ago. I'm going to show you some close-up JPEGs so you get a better understanding and you can make a view for yourself. Okay, so how does this racket perform? Well, it scored just an okay test result in the E-zone testing, just slightly above the 0.5DG, and also the 11DG Slim scored a very similar score test. Now, what was interesting when I compare these rackets is the on-court testing showed that the 11DG had more to offer, and later on this year the E-zone is going to get updated to represent these differences, where the E-zone testing and the court testing come together to form one score. That's currently not been the case, so that's based on the feedback we've been given by the E-zone users. And while we're talking about E-zone updates, it's also going to get a search function to make it easier to search for a racket, because by the end of this year there's probably going to be close to 800 rackets on there, and there'll also be a date and timeline toggle, so you can toggle across to say, I only want to see the most recent rackets, not all the old ones or whatever it is you're looking for. The website too will also get an update. The other thing you should know is the control test, where we drop into buckets and score, has stopped based on feedback from E-zone users. The control of each racket is now scored based on the on-court testing, where we're dropping at the net, cross-courting at the net, dropping it from that, direction change off a smash. Anything we can think of that's related to control is how we score for control now, and we think that you will all prefer that style of scoring for control as opposed to the bucket, based on the feedback we've been given. Okay, so back to what we thought of this racket. So 0.7DG, well, I would say that even though it's the same weight as the 0.5DG, it actually feels a little bit lighter to use than the 0.5. I think that's probably down to the balance point, and when you're hitting, down to the slightly less stiffer shaft. And it's the same really across the board. You know, it feels slightly quicker in the air, it feels slightly less stiff than the 0.5, and it does everything that much better than the 0.5, with the exception of control. The 0.5 is very stable, and you do get very nice levels of control with the 0.5. This slightly less so, so it's difficult to get the accuracy you're looking for. It's difficult to time it correctly. This could just be a matter of spending more time with the racket and understanding exactly where the racket head is, but it's difficult to judge straight when I'm comparing it like for 26 other rackets that are in the test group. This one was the harder one to judge and understand where the racket head was and get the shuttle where you want it to go. In all other areas it probably is better than the 0.5DG. I think that at £46 it's by no means racket I would choose, but there are some serious hardcore we only want Yonex people out there, which is fine, no judgment made. If you are one of those people, you must have a Yonex racket. Then I would say, look, if let's just say £40 is your marker, £45 is your marker, and it's got to be Yonex, okay, then go for the 0.7DG. You can play singles with it. I don't think you're going to have any difficulty playing singles with it. It's going to be less strenuous to use than the 0.5. You could consider it for doubles. It's okay in most double shots, and it's obviously a well-made racket at a good price. So that's what I'd say about it if you must have a Yonex racket. Ultimately though, if you're buying a Yonex racket, I would probably go for the Astrox Smash or the Astrox 39 if it has to be Yonex and you don't want to spend too much money. If it has to be a Voltric DG racket, then I'd probably go up to the 11DG Slim, because I think all round that's just a way more capable racket. A little bit harder core, a little bit more time to get used to, and probably going to give you a sore shoulder as well, but it's still, at least it does the job. At least you're not going to come out with a sore shoulder like you would with the 0.5DG and not get many results either. If however you're looking for the best racket and Yonex is not a huge consideration, it's just down to the racket, then you already know what I'm going to say. You've got Apex and you've got Abros dominating. They dominate the £40 to £50 marker. Anyone coming in that range has to bring in an insane racket to beat those rackets. So the Hammerhead recently tested really well. Previously the Venom these are all Bros rackets. Venom, the Nano 9900, even the Force Light, all tested great. So any of those rackets are going to beat the 0.5 DG or the 0.7 hands down every day. You know, in every area they're going to beat them. So I think that I would go in that direction. I personally prefer livelier, quick frames than slower, sluggish frames that are going to give me a big smash if I'm lined perfectly. I'm looking for stuff that's going to give me good power off every angle, because in badminton you're very rarely in the exact perfect position. You're quite often slightly off balance, you know, you're on the move when you're hitting, and for that livelier frames are quite nice, particularly if you're a beginner or intermediate player. There is an argument that beginners will do better with heavier rackets. My argument is they are much slower in the air, and airspeed needs to be a consideration when you're making that kind of judgment. If you're not familiar with the Bros, the quality is absolutely great. Never ever had a, touch wood, an issue with any of Bros rackets. However, you are familiar with Apex, and at the £40–50 mark, I know Apex are well known for copycatting, and they still do that, but they also have their own unique blend of rackets. The Asgardia is a nice racket. The Nanofusion Speed XR is also a great racket, and I would prefer any of those two over this 0.7DG racket. So I think that gives you a really good understanding of what we think of this racket and what you should do in terms of purchasing. We're now going to move on to show you the 0.7DG in the E-Zone smash test and the E-Zone maneuver test. For those of you who are very familiar with the E-Zone and you probably want to move on, can I just thank you before you go for your liking, sharing, and for the feedback. And if you've left reviews, thumbs up to you. If you left reviews in the E-Zone, thumbs up to you. Keep up that work, keep up building a community here on this channel. It's very early days for Badminton Racket Review. There's a lot to come from us yet. Right, we're going to talk about the E-Zone now. The E-Zone is a platform created by Badminton Racket Review where you can compare rackets from 19 world-class manufacturers, and you can compare them in a way you've never been able to do before. We test the rackets all the same way, and we use the same terminology on the site, so you can compare them directly. Doesn't matter which manufacturer or which racket. You've never been able to do that before. Furthermore, you've never been able to compare them with such depth of testing, which is going to increase, as I already mentioned earlier in this video, in 2020 by 5 more tests. When you decipher rackets and you drill down and go into the individual racket page, you actually get loads of information, JPEGs and videos on the racket, and even a buy it now link so you can buy the racket. So the whole process is handled for you from the start. It's, you know, you've got to have just a basic understanding of how to go onto a website to use the site. We've made it as easy as possible with the vast amount of information that we have available on there. Now, what you need to understand about our testing is that we restring all our rackets with the Yonex BG65 at 25 pounds of tension. We use the same AS30 shuttles, and we have the same player doing all of our tests for us. The smash and maneuver tests are based around 6 shots which we assess. If we're happy with how those shots have gone, we then take the 2 highest speed scores recordings, and we create 1 smash speed, we create 1 maneuver speed, and from that we get a smash score and a maneuver score which we enter into the E-Zone. We're going to now play you those videos, but before we do, I just want to say goodbye from us. We'll see you on the next video. Thanks for tuning in today. Here is the 0.7DG smash and maneuver shots.